Earth's fleet emerges. Admiral Vax Lore of the Galactic Confederation stood on the observation deck of his command vessel, the Stellar Dominance, watching as Earth grew larger in the view screen. His four eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of anticipation among his species. The culmination of years of planning was about to unfold, and he couldn't help but feel a slight flutter in his secondary heart. "Remind me why we're bothering with these primitives again," Captain Nestle asked, her voice dripping with boredom as she adjusted her ceremonial armor. "They've barely left their atmosphere." Vaxlor sighed. Working with Nestle always tested his patience. "Protocol, Captain. Every space-faring species receives a formal welcome to the galactic community, even the painfully primitive ones." "But they've only reached their moon once, and that was over 50 years ago," Nestle protested, throwing her upper limbs up in exasperation. "Technically, they qualify," Vaxer replied. "Their probes have left their solar system. The Confederation Charter is quite clear on this point." Nestle snorted. "I bet they'll worship us as gods." "That would violate Section 12 of the Contact Protocol," Lieutenant Zulvax chimed in from his station, not looking up from his data pad. The young officer was always quoting regulations. "We must ensure they understand we are merely an advanced civilization, not deities." "Thank you for that vital reminder, Lieutenant," Nestle said, rolling all three of her eyes. "I was planning to demand sacrifices in my honor, but I suppose that's off the table now." Lieutenant Zulvax looked up, confusion evident on his face. "Captain, sacrifices would be highly illegal and—" "She's being sarcastic, Lieutenant," Vaxler interrupted. "Something you might recognize if you spent less time memorizing regulations and more time studying actual species." The bridge fell silent as Earth filled more of the view screen. It was pretty, Vaxlor had to admit. All that blue, the swirling white clouds, the green and brown land masses. Primitive, yes, but charming in its own way. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're detecting unusual activity from the planet's surface." "Define unusual," Velora commanded, straightening his posture. "Multiple large metal objects launching from various points on the surface. They appear to be ships of some kind." Velora frowned. "That's not possible. Our intelligence indicates they have no significant space fleet." "Apparently our intelligence needs updating," Nestle remarked, suddenly interested. She moved closer to the view screen, her earlier boredom evaporating. "Look at that formation. That's not the behavior of a civilization making first contact. That's a defensive posture." As they watched, dozens of vessels emerged from Earth's atmosphere, arranging themselves in a precise geometric pattern. They were smaller than the Stellar Dominance, but there were many of them, and they moved with surprising coordination. "They're hailing us," the communications officer reported, sounding surprised. "Put it through," Vaxer ordered, smoothing down his ceremonial robe. First impressions were important, after all. The view screen shifted to show a human face. The creature had two eyes, a bizarre amount of hair on its head, and wore some sort of uniform with symbols Vax lore didn't recognize. "This is Admiral Elena Blackburn of the United Earth Defense Fleet," the human said, her voice translated through the ship's systems. "You have entered Earth-controlled space without authorization. Identify yourselves and state your purpose." Vaxer blinked all four eyes in surprise before gathering his composure. "I am Admiral Vaxor of the Galactic Confederation. We come in peace to formally welcome humanity to the galactic community." The human's face remained impassive. "You're telling me you traveled across space to welcome us to the neighborhood?" "Precisely," Vaxor exclaimed, pleased that the primitive understood so quickly. "It is a great honor. We bring gifts of knowledge and technology to help your species advance." Admiral Blackburn seemed to consider this for a moment. "That's nice of you, but next time maybe send a message ahead. Appearing suddenly in orbit tends to make us nervous. Your communications technology is insufficient for interstellar messages," Vaxlor explained, trying not to sound condescending. "We didn't wish to frighten you with unexplained signals. So instead you frightened us with an unexplained massive spaceship. Brilliant planning there," Blackburn replied, her tone making Veloror wonder if humans also use sarcasm. Nestle snorted again, this time with genuine amusement. "I like this primitive." "We apologize for any alarm caused," Vaxer said smoothly. "Perhaps we could meet in person to discuss the terms of humanity's induction into the Confederation." Admiral Blackburn nodded. We can arrange that, but your vessel will need to maintain its current position. Any attempt to move closer to Earth will be considered hostile. Vaxlor was taken aback by the human's tone. Did this primitive not understand the honor being bestowed upon them? Of course, Admiral, we respect your caution, although I assure you it is unnecessary. Wonderful, Blackburn replied with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. We'll send coordinates for a rendezvous point. Blackburn out. The screen went blank, returning to the view of Earth and the surprisingly large fleet now positioned between the stellar dominance and the planet. Well, Nestle said after a moment of silence, that was unexpected. Indeed, Vaxer agreed. Lieutenant, analyze those vessels. I want to know everything about them. Yes, Admiral, Zuluvax replied, already typing commands into his console. Initial scans indicate technology far more advanced than our intelligence suggested. Those ships have energy signatures consistent with Sir, this can't be right. What is it? Vaxer demanded. These readings suggest their propulsion systems are operating on principles similar to our Class 3 drives. That's only 2 generations behind our current technology. Nestle moved to look over the lieutenant's shoulder. That's impossible. They should be using chemical rockets at best. The data doesn't lie, Captain, Zolvax insisted. And there's more. Their hulls contain alloys we haven't encountered before, very dense, possibly more resistant to energy weapons than our own shielding. A uncomfortable silence fell over the bridge as the implications sank in. These humans weren't the primitives they had expected, not even close. Admiral, the communications officer called out, we're receiving the coordinates for the rendezvous. Very well, Valor said, trying to hide his discomfort. Prepare my shuttle. Captain Nestle, you'll accompany me. Lieutenant Zulvax, continue your analysis and report any findings immediately. As they prepared to meet these unexpectedly advanced humans, Vaxlor couldn't shake the feeling that the Confederation's intelligence on Earth was not just wrong, but catastrophically so. First contact with Admiral Blackburn. The shuttle journey was tense. Vaxor reviewed the diplomatic protocols while Nestle stared out at the human fleet, her expression troubled. They're escorting us, she noted as 3 human vessels positioned themselves around the shuttle. Standard military procedure for guiding an unknown entity. They're cautious, Valor replied, as would be any species encountering aliens for the first time. Nestle turned to face him. That's just it, they're acting like this isn't their first encounter. Before Vaxlor could respond, the shuttle began its approach to the rendezvous point. It wasn't Earth as he had expected, but rather a massive space station orbiting the planet. The structure was enormous, easily rivaling some of the Confederation's own stations. That's not in any of our reports, Nestle whispered. How did we miss this? The shuttle docked smoothly with the station. As the airlock cycled, Vaxlor prepared himself for the diplomatic greeting. The door slid open, revealing a delegation of humans waiting in a large chamber decorated with what appeared to be their flags and symbols. Admiral Vaxlor, Admiral Blackburn stepped forward, extending a hand. It took Vaxlor a moment to remember the human custom of shaking hands from the briefing materials. Admiral Blackburn, he replied, taking her hand awkwardly. Thank you for hosting us. Welcome to Unity Station, she said, gesturing around them. Our primary orbital diplomatic facility. Diplomatic facility, Nestle repeated. You mean you've used this for other encounters? A slight smile crossed Blackburn's face. Let's just say you're not the first visitors we've received from beyond our solar system. Vaxlor felt his secondary heart skip a beat. I don't understand. Our records indicate humanity has had no contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. Your records seem to be missing a lot of things. Another human stepped forward, a male with darker skin and an impressive collection of medals on his uniform. General Marcus Jefferson, United Earth Defense Force Intelligence Division. Perhaps we should continue this conversation somewhere more comfortable, Blackburn suggested, motioning toward a doorway. We have much to discuss. The shocking tour of Unity Station. They were led into a conference room with a large window overlooking Earth. The view was spectacular, but Vaxlor could hardly appreciate it given his growing confusion. Let me be blunt, Admiral Blackburn said once they were seated. We've known about the Galactic Confederation for nearly 30 years. Vaxlor stared at her in disbelief. That's not possible. Oh, it's quite possible, General Jefferson replied. We intercepted one of your scout ships in the Kuiper Belt back in 2041. The crew was most informative. You captured a Confederation vessel, Nestle exclaimed, her hand instinctively moving toward her sidearm before she caught herself. Not exactly captured, Blackburn clarified. They experienced a drive malfunction, we assisted them. And in return, Jefferson continued, they shared some interesting insights about the broader galactic community, including the Confederation's habit of welcoming new space-faring species under terms that essentially make them client states. Vaxlor felt his skin flush with embarrassment. This was not how first contact was supposed to go. I assure you, the Confederation's intentions are benevolent. We offer protection, technology, and access to interstellar trade networks in exchange for resources, loyalty, and adherence to your laws, Blackburn finished for him. Yes, we understand the arrangement, we're just not interested. Not interested, Backler repeated, struggling to comprehend. No species had ever rejected Confederation membership. It was unheard of. Let me show you why, Jefferson said, activating a display on the conference table. A holographic image appeared showing what could only be described as a warship, but not like any Vaxlor had ever seen. This is the USS Harbinger, Jefferson explained. One of our Leviathan-class dreadnoughts. We have 12 currently in service with 6 more under construction. The image shifted, showing the vessel firing what appeared to be advanced energy weapons, then deploying smaller craft from internal bays. How Vaxlor began but couldn't finish the question. Let's just say humanity has been preparing for this moment for quite some time, Blackburn said. But your technological development, it should have taken centuries to advance this far, Nestle argued. Jefferson smiled, but there was no warmth in it. We're fast learners and highly motivated by the prospect of maintaining our independence. I see, Vaxer said slowly, beginning to understand the magnitude of the situation. So this meeting is a courtesy. Blackburn confirmed. We're happy to establish diplomatic relations with the Confederation, trade agreements, cultural exchanges, but as equals, not as a client species. Vaxor exchanged a glance with Nestle, who looked as stunned as he felt. This mission had gone completely sideways, and he had no protocol for this situation. The Confederation Council will need to be informed of this development, he said finally. Of course, Blackburn nodded. In the meantime, we've prepared information packets about Earth, our government, and our capabilities. We hope this will facilitate productive discussions moving forward. As a human aide distributed data tablets, Vaxlor couldn't help but notice the subtle display of force taking place outside the window. 3 of those Leviathan-class dreadnoughts had positioned themselves within view, their massive forms eclipsing the stars behind them. One more thing, Jefferson added casually. We'd appreciate if you'd inform your cloaked vessels in the asteroid belt that they've been detected and are being monitored. We don't want any misunderstandings. Vaxer froze. The backup squadron was supposed to be undetectable. I don't know what you mean, he tried, but the words sounded hollow even to him. Please, Admiral, Blackburn said with a smile that reminded Vaxlor of a predator. Let's not start our relationship with dishonesty. We've been tracking them since they entered the system. As the implications of everything he'd learned in the past hour washed over him, Vaxlor made a decision. The Confederation had severely underestimated humanity, and now they would have to adapt to a reality they hadn't prepared for. Very well, he conceded. I will inform my superiors of humanity's position and request the Observer Squadron to identify themselves. Excellent, Blackburn replied, standing and extending her hand again. I believe this is the beginning of a very interesting relationship. As Vaxlor shook her hand, he couldn't help but think that interesting was perhaps the mildest way to describe what was coming. The Confederation had come to welcome a primitive species to the galactic community. Instead, they had found a technological powerhouse with no interest in playing by their rules. The universe had just become a much more complicated place. Earth reveals its military might. The return journey to the stellar dominance was painfully silent. Admiral Vaxlor stared at the data tablet the humans had provided, scrolling through information that systematically shattered every assumption the Confederation had made about Earth. Captain Nestle gazed out the viewport, watching as one of the human dreadnoughts performed what appeared to be a casual patrol maneuver that brought it uncomfortably close to their shuttle. They're showing off, she muttered, breaking the silence. Can you blame them? Vaxer replied, not looking up from the tablet. We arrived expecting to find primitive monkeys with rockets. Instead, we found apex predators with energy weapons. The shuttle docked with the stellar dominance, and they made their way to the bridge in continued silence. The moment they entered, Lieutenant Zolvax approached, his face a mask of concern. Admiral, the humans have contacted our observation fleet. They've demanded they decloak and identify themselves. And have they complied? Vaxer asked, though he already knew the answer. No, sir, Commander D is requesting instructions. He says his orders came directly from High Command and can only be countermanded by someone of equal or higher rank, Valor finished. Put me through to him. The view screen flickered to life, revealing the stern face of Commander D, a veteran officer from the warrior caste who had never been known for his diplomatic finesse. Admiral, D acknowledged with minimal respect. I trust you have an explanation for how these primitives detected my squadron. These primitives, as you call them, Vaxler replied sharply, possess technology rivaling our own. They have been aware of the Confederation for decades and have been preparing accordingly. D's expression shifted from disdain to disbelief. Impossible. I thought so too, but the evidence is irrefutable. Vaxer gestured to Nestle, who transmitted the human data package to D's vessel. Review this immediately, then deactivate your cloaking systems and respond to the human hail. With all due respect, Admiral, my orders. Your orders were predicated on intelligence that has proven catastrophically wrong. Vaxer cut him off. Unless you wish to provoke an interspecies incident with a civilization capable of destroying your entire squadron, I suggest you comply, Commander. Commander D's face hardened, but after a moment he nodded curtly. As you command, Admiral. The transmission ended, and Vax Lord turned to address his bridge crew. Prepare a priority transmission to High Command, Security Classification Omega-9. Lieutenant Zuvax's eyes widened. Omega-9, sir, is that level really necessary? Absolutely, Vaxer confirmed grimly. The Confederation's entire strategic position in this sector has just been upended. High Command needs to know immediately. As his crew hurried to comply, Nestle approached Vaxler, speaking softly so only he could hear. The humans could have destroyed D's squadron at any time. Why reveal their hand now? Vaxlor considered the question. I believe they're sending a message. They want the Confederation to know exactly what they're dealing with. A show of strength, Nestle nodded, typical for an emerging species. No, Vaxer shook his head. This is different. They've been watching us, studying us, preparing for this moment while we remained oblivious. This isn't just a show of strength. It's a declaration of independence before we ever had a chance to assert control. Before Nestle could respond, the communications officer called out, Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. Admiral Blackburn is requesting to speak with you. Vaxlor straightened his posture, put her through. Admiral Blackburn appeared on screen, her expression neutral but her eyes sharp. Admiral Vaxlor, I appreciate your cooperation regarding the observation fleet. Commander D has identified himself and explained their presence. I'm pleased to hear it, Vaxlora replied diplomatically. I hope this demonstrates our commitment to honest communication moving forward. It's a start, Blackburn acknowledged, which is why I'd like to extend an invitation. Our planetary leadership would like to meet with you personally. We're prepared to begin formal diplomatic relations with the Confederation, provided certain conditions are met. Vaxlor felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this situation could still be salvaged. I would be honored to meet with your leaders. What conditions do you propose? Full recognition of Earth's sovereignty and independence, non-interference in our internal affairs, mutual defense agreements rather than protectorate status, and complete technological exchange, not the watered-down versions you typically offer to new members. The bridge fell silent as everyone processed these demands. They were unprecedented. New species didn't dictate terms to the Confederation. It was always the other way around. These are substantial requests, Vaxer said carefully. I don't have the authority to agree to such terms. We understand, Blackburn replied, but your leadership does. We're transmitting formal diplomatic communiques for you to forward to them. In the meantime, we invite you to visit our planet as our guest. Perhaps seeing Earth firsthand will help you understand our position better. Backlor hesitated only briefly. I accept your invitation, Admiral. When shall we proceed? Excellent, we'll send transport for you in 6 hours. You may bring a small delegation, no more than 5 individuals. And Admiral, no weapons, will extend the same courtesy. Diplomatic tensions rise. After the transmission ended, Nestle turned to Vaxor with disbelief. You're actually going down there, to their home world. Of course, Vor replied. This is a diplomatic mission after all, and I'm genuinely curious to see what they've built. It could be a trap, she pointed out. If they wanted to destroy us, they could have done so already, Vaxor countered. No, they want recognition, respect, and honestly, they've earned it. 6 hours later, Vaxler, Nestle, and 3 other officers boarded a human transport vessel. The craft was sleek, clearly designed for both atmosphere and space travel, with an interior that was surprisingly comfortable for their alien physiology. Welcome aboard the Peregrine, announced the human pilot, turning in her seat to face them. I'm Captain Amara Singh. The journey to Earth will take approximately 40 minutes. Please make yourselves comfortable. The journey to Geneva. As they descended toward the blue planet, Vaxler found himself pressed against a viewport, watching in fascination as they penetrated the atmosphere. Clouds gave way to reveal sprawling cities, vast oceans, and green landscapes. He had visited many worlds in his career, but there was always something special about seeing a species' home world for the first time. It's beautiful, he murmured. Yes, it is, Captain Singh replied, overhearing him, and worth protecting at all costs. There was something in her tone that made Valor glance at her. The human met his gaze steadily, and he understood the implicit message. This is what we're fighting for. The transport landed at what appeared to be a major governmental complex in a city the humans called Geneva. They were greeted by an honor guard and escorted into a magnificent building with soaring architecture and expansive windows overlooking a lake. Inside, they were led to a circular chamber where representatives from various human nations awaited them. Admiral Blackburn and General Jefferson were present, along with numerous officials Vax Lord didn't recognize. A woman stepped forward. Unlike the military personnel they'd met earlier, she wore formal civilian attire. Admiral Vax Lure, welcome to Earth. I am Secretary General Kai Miyazaki of the United Earth Government. Vax Lura performed the formal Confederation greeting, touching his primary heart with his right upper limb. Secretary General, I am honored by your hospitality. Please be seated. Miyazaki gestured to chairs that had been specially modified to accommodate their physiological differences. A thoughtful touch that didn't go unnoticed. Once everyone was settled, Miyazaki began, Admiral, we understand this situation is unprecedented for your Confederation. For millennia, you've been the dominant force in this sector of the galaxy, incorporating new species under your protection and guidance. It's a system that has largely worked well, but not for everyone. Indeed, Miyazaki acknowledged with a slight nod. We've had the opportunity to communicate with several species who joined your Confederation. While many are satisfied with the arrangement, others feel constrained. Vax's lore shifted uncomfortably. It was true that not all member species embraced Confederation rule equally. Some chafed under the restrictions, but that was the price of protection and advancement. What the Secretary General is trying to say, Admiral, Blackburn interjected, is that we've done our homework. We know exactly what Confederation membership entails, and we've made an informed decision to pursue a different path. A path of partnership rather than subordination, Miyazaki clarified. Earth is prepared to be a valuable ally to the Confederation, but we will not be a subject. Vax Lore considered his next words carefully. You must understand, this is without precedent. The Confederation structure has remained consistent for over 8,000 years. Then perhaps it's time for evolution, Miyazaki suggested. All great institutions must adapt or risk becoming obsolete. May I ask, Nestle spoke up suddenly, how humans advance so quickly? Our intelligence indicated you should be centuries away from developing the technology we've witnessed. A ripple of what Vax Lore recognized as amusement passed through the human delegation. We had help, Jefferson admitted with a slight smile. Not all species are satisfied with Confederation policies. Some were willing to share knowledge with us, hoping to change the balance of power. A treason, Nestle histed. Alliance, Blackburn corrected. And before you ask, no, we won't reveal which species assisted us. Their security depends on our discretion. Vax Lure's mind raced. This explains so much, the technological leap, the strategic preparation, even their knowledge of Confederation protocols. But it also revealed a disturbing truth. dissent within the Confederation was more widespread than High Command acknowledged. "We're not your enemies, Admiral," Miyazaki said softly, reading his expression. "But we won't be your subjects either. Now shall we discuss what mutual cooperation might look like?" The next several hours were filled with detailed discussions about trade, technology exchange, diplomatic protocols, and security arrangements. Throughout it all, Valor was struck by the humans' thoroughness. They had clearly been preparing for this negotiation for years. A new galactic alliance forms. As the formal discussions concluded, Secretary General Miyazaki invited the Confederation delegation to a state dinner, where they were introduced to human cuisine especially prepared to be compatible with their biology and cultural performances. During the dinner, Valor found himself seated beside Admiral Blackburn. "Your species continues to surprise me," he admitted, sampling a food item the humans called risotto modified for his digestive system. "We tend to do that," Blackburn replied with a small smile. "Adaptation is our specialty. It's how we survived on a planet that tried to kill us in 1,000 different ways." "Is that why you developed such formidable military capabilities?" Blackburn considered the question before answering. "Partly. Our history is filled with conflict, tribe against tribe, nation against nation. We nearly destroyed ourselves more than once, but we learned from those mistakes." "Yet you maintain a substantial war fleet," Vaxler observed. "The universe is a dangerous place," Blackburn replied, her expression growing serious. "Your Confederation offers protection in exchange for submission. We chose to protect ourselves and others." "Perhaps," Vaxlor suggested, recalling Jefferson's comment about dissatisfied Confederation members. Blackburn merely smiled, neither confirming nor denying. "Let's just say humanity has always had a soft spot for the underdog." After the dinner, as they prepared to return to the stellar dominance, Secretary General Miyazaki presented Vaxlor with a small, ornate box. "A token of Earth's goodwill," she explained. "Inside is a data crystal containing our complete history, art, literature, music, the essence of human culture. We offer it freely in the hope that understanding will lead to genuine friendship." Touched by the gesture, Vaxlor accepted the gift. "I will ensure this reaches our cultural repositories. Perhaps understanding human history will help the Confederation Council see the wisdom in your proposal." "That's our hope," Miyazaki nodded. "Safe journey, Admiral." The future of human-alien relations. Back aboard the Stellar Dominance, Vaxlor retreated to his private quarters to record his report for High Command. The data crystal from Earth sat on his desk, its surface reflecting the soft lighting of the room. "Computer, begin recording," he commanded, settling into his chair. "To the High Council of the Galactic Confederation, Priority Classification Omega-9. I regret to inform you that our intelligence regarding the species known as humans was catastrophically inaccurate." For nearly an hour, he detailed everything they had learned. The humans' advanced technology, their alliance with unnamed Confederation species, their detailed knowledge of Confederation protocols, and their unwavering insistence on independence. In conclusion, he said, "Finally, I believe we face three options. First, we could attempt to force humanity into compliance through military action. However, I must strongly advise against this course. Their technological capabilities rival our own, and the cost in lives and resources would be substantial. Additionally, such action might trigger a wider rebellion among disaffected Confederation members." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "Second, we could withdraw completely, declaring this sector off-limits and essentially ceding it to human influence. While this preserves Confederation resources, it would signal weakness and potentially accelerate the very descent we seek to prevent." Another pause. "The third option, which I personally recommend, is to accept the humans' proposal for alliance rather than incorporation. This unprecedented arrangement would require significant adjustments to Confederation policies, but would secure a powerful ally rather than creating a formidable enemy. It would also allow us to monitor and potentially influence human development through peaceful cooperation." He leaned back in his chair, feeling the weight of his recommendation. What he was suggesting would shake the foundations of Confederation policy. "I await your instructions, but I urge swift action. The humans are patient, but they will not wait indefinitely for our response. Whatever path we choose will shape interstellar relations for generations to come." Admiral Vaxler out. He ended the recording and transmitted it through the secure quantum channel to Confederation headquarters. It would take approximately 6 standard days to receive a response, 6 days of uncertain waiting. A soft chime at his door interrupted his thoughts. "Enter," he called out. Captain Nestle stepped into the room, her usual brash demeanor subdued. "Your report is sent." "Yes," Valor confirmed, "now we wait." And if they order military action? The question hung in the air between them. It was borderline treasonous even to contemplate disobeying such an order, yet Vaxlor knew Nesta was right to ask. "Let us hope the Council's wisdom exceeds their pride," he replied carefully. Nestle approached his desk, looking at the Earth crystal. "I've been reviewing their historical records. Did you know they fought 17 global wars? 17, and those are just the ones involving multiple continental powers." "A violent species," Vaxor acknowledged. "Yes, but that's not my point," Nestle said, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence. "Each time they emerged stronger, more unified. They learned from conflict in ways our species never had to. The Confederation brought peace to our worlds before we could destroy ourselves. Humans had to find their own path to cooperation." She touched the crystal gently. "They're dangerous, yes, but not because they're malevolent. They're dangerous because they're survivors. All the more reason to befriend rather than antagonize them," Vaxor noted. "Agreed," Nestle said, surprising him with her sincerity, "which is why I've taken the liberty of inviting Admiral Blackburn to tour our vessel tomorrow. A gesture of transparency and trust." Vaxlor raised his upper limbs in surprise. "That's unprecedented and potentially against security protocols." "As you said yourself, Admiral, we're in unprecedented territory," Nestle replied with a slight shrug. "Besides, do you really think there's anything on this ship they couldn't learn from their mysterious Confederation allies?" He had to admit she had a point. "Very well, Captain, I'll trust your judgment on this." After Nestle left, Vaxlord turned to the viewport, gazing at the blue planet below. In all his years of service, he had never encountered a situation quite like this. The Confederation had always been the dominant force, dictating terms from a position of unquestioned authority. Now, for the first time, they would have to negotiate as equals, or perhaps even from a position of disadvantage. It was humbling and more than a little frightening. But as he watched the lights of human cities twinkling on the night side of Earth, Vloror felt something else too: excitement. These humans, with their tenacity and ingenuity, their capacity for both tremendous violence and extraordinary compassion, represented something new in the galactic order. Perhaps he thought this was exactly what the aging Confederation needed: a shake-up, a challenge to complacency, a reminder that the universe still held surprises. 6 days later, the response from High Command arrived. As Vaxlor read the transmission, a slow smile spread across his face. The Confederation Council, after heated debate, had authorized him to begin formal alliance negotiations with humanity. A new chapter in galactic history was about to begin, and for once, not even Admiral Vaxlor could predict what would happen next. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, other species watched and waited, wondering if humanity's defiance would finally change the order that had governed them for thousands of years. The humans had a saying that Vaxlor had discovered in their cultural database: "The times, they are a-changing."